She had just been thrown out of her own wedding, still wearing the white dress, tears not even dry yet. Ava Brooks stood in the cold rain, surrounded by blurred golden lights and eyes full of judgment. But instead of breaking, she turned and walked toward a stranger in a wheelchair under a bus stop shelter, and did something that left everyone speechless. What no one knew was that this single, reckless decision would pull her into a secret powerful enough to change her entire life. The ballroom at the Grand Crescent Hotel in downtown Atlanta glowed in gold and crystal, every chandelier reflecting light like 1,000 tiny promises. Soft jazz floated through the air, clinking glasses and polite laughter weaving together into the kind of evening people dreamed about their whole lives. Ava Brooks stood at the center of it all, her white dress catching the light, her hands trembling just enough to betray the storm inside her. For a moment, everything felt almost real. Then the music stopped. It didn't fade. It didn't soften. It cut, sharp, sudden, wrong. "What is this?" a voice snapped, loud enough to slice through the room. Ava turned slowly. Marcus stood across from her, no longer smiling, no longer pretending. His jaw was tight, his eyes cold in a way she had never seen before. Behind him, his parents whispered to each other, their faces twisted with something between annoyance and disgust. "Ava," Marcus said, his voice now carrying easily to every corner of the ballroom. "You really thought this would work?" The guests fell silent. Forks hovered midair. Conversations died. Ava blinked. "Marcus, what are you talking about?" He let out a short laugh, dry, humorless. "I'm talking about this entire performance." He gestured around the room, at the flowers, the cake, the carefully arranged tables. "You walking in here like you belong." The words hit harder than a slap. Ava's throat tightened. "We planned this together. No," his mother cut in sharply, stepping forward in her polished heels. "You planned this. We tolerated it." A murmur spread through the crowd. Ava felt every pair of eyes shift toward her, heavy and judging. The room that had felt warm just minutes ago suddenly seemed too bright, too exposed. Marcus pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. "Actually, let's make this easier." Ava's phone buzzed in her hand. Once, twice, then again, she looked down, her vision blurring as notification after notification flooded in. Her bank app, locked. Her shared account, empty. Her email filled with automated messages. Access revoked, accounts closed, services terminated. "What did you do?" she whispered. Marcus shrugged. "What I should have done months ago." Her chest tightened. "You can't just—" "I can," he interrupted. "Because everything you have, it came through me." A sharp intake of breath rippled through the guests. Ava's hands began to shake, the phone slipping slightly in her grip. "That's not true." "Oh, it's very true," his father added, his tone calm but cutting. "And we've decided we don't want any complications joining our family." Complications. That was what she was now. Not a fiancé, not a partner. Not someone who had spent years loving Marcus through his struggles, building dreams from nothing. Just a complication. "I gave up everything for you," Ava said, her voice cracking despite her effort to hold it steady. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice just enough that it felt more intimate and more cruel. "And that was your first mistake." The words sank deep, settling somewhere she couldn't reach. Someone near the back let out an awkward laugh. Another guest quickly hushed them, but the damage was done. The room had shifted. What had been a celebration had become a spectacle. Ava felt it, the pity, the judgment, the quiet satisfaction. Security appeared before she even realized what was happening. Two men in dark suits moved toward her, polite but firm. "Ma'am," one of them said, avoiding her eyes, "we're going to have to ask you to leave." Her breath caught. "This is my wedding. No one corrected her. Marcus didn't look at her anymore. The guards gently but unmistakably guided her toward the exit. Her heels clicked against the polished floor, each step echoing too loudly in the silence. The doors loomed ahead, massive and unforgiving. No one stopped them. No one spoke up. The doors opened, and just like that, she was outside. The night air hit her like a shock. Cool, damp, real. Rain had started to fall. Light at first, then steady, soaking into her dress, flattening the delicate lace against her skin. The city hummed around her, cars passing, neon signs flickering in the distance, life continuing as if nothing had just ended. Ava stood there, frozen. For a long time, she didn't move. Her hands hung at her sides, empty now. No bouquet, no phone that worked, no place to go. Behind her, through the glass doors, she could see the party resume. The music started again, softer this time, as if trying to pretend nothing had happened. People turned away from the entrance, returning to their drinks, their conversations, their lives, like she had never been part of it. A car drove past, splashing water onto the curb. Ava flinched slightly, but didn't step back. The rain soaked through her hair, her makeup, her dress, until everything blurred together. Salt and water, tears and storm. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to breathe. One breath, then another. Across the street, under a flickering bus stop light, she noticed him. At first, it was just a shape, then the details came into focus. A man in a wheelchair, sitting quietly beneath the shelter, a thin jacket pulled around him. He wasn't looking at his phone, wasn't calling anyone, wasn't trying to leave. He was just watching. Not the hotel, not the guests, her. There was no pity in his expression, no amusement, just something steady, something calm, something she hadn't seen in anyone's eyes all night. Ava hesitated. The rain continued to fall, tapping softly against the pavement, the bus stop roof, the distant windows of the city. She took a step forward, then another. Each step felt heavier than the last, like she was walking out of one life and into something she didn't understand yet. The man didn't move, didn't speak. He just watched her approach, his gaze unwavering. Ava stopped a few feet in front of him, her breath uneven, her dress dripping onto the concrete. For a moment, neither of them said anything. Then slowly, almost without realizing it, Ava looked down at her hand. The ring was still there, the one Marcus had given her, the one that had meant everything just an hour ago. Her fingers trembled as she slid it off. The metal felt cold against her skin. She looked back up at the man in the wheelchair, really looked at him this time. And for the first time that night, she didn't feel small. She didn't feel judged. She didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. Ava tightened her grip on the ring. Then, before she could think herself out of it, she stepped closer. Closer to a stranger. Closer to something unknown. Closer to a decision that would change everything. And then she bent her knees, lowering herself down, right there on the wet pavement, holding the ring between shaking fingers, looking up at him through the rain as the city moved around them, and the entire world seemed to hold its breath. Why was she doing this? Even she didn't know. But something inside her refused to let her walk away. The words echoed in Ava's mind as she knelt on the cold, rain-soaked pavement, her dress clinging to her skin, her breath uneven. The city lights blurred behind the falling rain, turning everything into streaks of gold and red. Cars passed. People glanced over. Some slowed, curious. Most just kept walking, but she stayed. Her hand trembled as she held out the ring. "I know this doesn't make any sense," she said, her voice barely steady, but loud enough to rise above the rain. "And I know you don't know me, but I need to ask you something." The man in the wheelchair didn't interrupt. He didn't look away either. His eyes stayed locked on hers, calm and searching, as if he were trying to understand something deeper than her words. Ava swallowed hard. "I just lost everything," she continued. "My home, my money, my future." A bitter breath escaped her. "And maybe this sounds crazy, but you were the only person who looked at me tonight like I wasn't nothing." Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. "So I'm asking you." She lifted the ring slightly, her fingers shaking more now. "Will you marry me?" A gust of wind swept through the street, carrying the rain sideways. Somewhere behind her, a car horn blared. Someone laughed, sharp, disbelieving. "Oh my God, is she serious?" A woman's voice called out from under the hotel awning. "Man, somebody better film this," another voice added, already pulling out a phone. The laughter grew. Ava heard it. Every word, every chuckle, every whispered insult. But she didn't turn around. She didn't move. Her eyes stayed on him. The man in the wheelchair tilted his head slightly, studying her. Up close, she could see the details she'd missed before. The faint lines at the corners of his eyes, the quiet exhaustion in them, the way he held himself, not weak, not broken, just still. "You don't know my name," he said finally, his voice low and even. Ava blinked, caught off guard by how calm he sounded. "No, you don't know where I live. No, you don't know what I have, or don't have." Ava shook her head slowly. "No." Another pause. Rain tapped against the metal roof of the bus stop, steady and relentless. "And you still want to marry me?" he asked. Ava let out a breath that felt like it had been trapped inside her for years. "I don't want to go back in there," she said softly, glancing toward the glowing hotel behind her. "And I don't want to be the person they think I am." Her eyes returned to his. "I just want one moment where I choose something for myself." Silence fell between them. Even the laughter behind her seemed to fade, as if the world itself was waiting. The man looked down at the ring in her hand, then back at her face. Something shifted in his expression, so subtle it might have been missed by anyone else. But Ava felt it. He understood, or at least, he wasn't dismissing her. "You're asking a stranger to change your life," he said. Ava gave a faint, tired smile. "I think my life already changed." Another beat. Then slowly he leaned forward, not away, not hesitating, toward her. "What's your name?" he asked. "Ava," she said. "Ava Brooks." He nodded once, as if committing it to memory. "I'm Ethan," he replied. Ethan Cole. The name meant nothing to her, and everything to him. Ethan exhaled quietly, his fingers resting lightly on the arm of his chair. For a moment, it looked like he might say no, like he might turn away, roll off into the night, leave her kneeling there with nothing but rain and regret. Instead, he said one word, "Yes." The world snapped back into motion. "What?" Ava whispered, her eyes widening. "Yes," Ethan repeated, his voice just as calm, just as certain. "I'll marry you." A stunned silence fell over the small crowd that had gathered. Then, "No way. Did he just say yes? Yo, this is insane." Phones lifted higher. Someone stepped closer. A flash went off. Ava's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. You mean that?" Ethan gave a small nod. "You asked. That's not the same as, I know what you asked," he said gently, "and I know what I said." Ava stared at him, trying to make sense of it, trying to understand how a stranger could agree to something so big, so sudden, so irreversible. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan held her gaze. "Because you're not the only one who needed a different ending tonight." The words settled over her, quiet but heavy. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then slowly, she slid the ring onto his finger. It didn't fit perfectly. It was a little loose, but it stayed. A strange, almost surreal feeling washed over her. Just an hour ago, that ring had symbolized everything she had lost. Now, it meant something else. Something she didn't fully understand yet. A police car rolled slowly past, its headlights cutting through the rain. The officer inside glanced at them, at the crowd, at the phones recording everything, but kept driving. No one stopped them. No one questioned it. Maybe because it didn't look real. Maybe because it didn't make sense. Or maybe because no one believed it would last. "All right, that's enough," a security guard from the hotel called out, stepping closer. "You all need to move along." The small crowd began to scatter, some laughing, some still filming, some shaking their heads. Ava stood up slowly, her legs stiff from kneeling on the wet ground. She wiped her hands on her dress without thinking, then looked back at Ethan. "What happens now?" she asked. Ethan glanced down the street, then back at her. "There's a late clerk at the county office a few blocks from here," he said. "They handle emergency filings." Ava blinked. "You're serious. I don't say things I don't mean." She studied his face, searching for hesitation, for doubt, for anything that might tell her this was a mistake. She didn't find it. Instead, she saw something steady, something grounded, something real. A car pulled up nearby, its tires hissing against the wet pavement. The driver leaned out. "You need a ride?" Ava hesitated. Ethan looked at her. "It's your choice." For the first time all night, the words didn't feel like pressure. They felt like freedom. Ava took a breath, then nodded. "Yeah," she said quietly. "We do." The driver got out, helping adjust Ethan's chair into the back of the vehicle. Ava climbed in beside him, her dress trailing behind her like a ghost of the life she had just left. As the door shut, the noise of the city softened. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The car pulled away from the curb, the Grand Crescent Hotel shrinking in the rearview mirror, its golden lights fading into the rain. Ava stared out the window, watching the reflections blur across the glass. "You can still change your mind," she said suddenly, not looking at him. "So can you," Ethan replied. She let out a quiet breath. "I already lost everything." Ethan's voice came calm and certain. "Then maybe," he said, "this is where something else begins." Ava turned her head slightly, just enough to look at him, a stranger, a husband, a mystery, and somehow, the only person that night who hadn't made her feel small. The car turned a corner, disappearing into the city. Neither of them knew where this road would lead, but neither of them turned back. The words lingered in Ava's mind long after the car left the glow of downtown Atlanta behind. The city changed as they drove. The glass towers gave way to older buildings. Neon signs flickered over corner stores. Streetlights buzzed softly in the damp air, casting pale halos onto cracked sidewalks. Somewhere in the distance, a train rattled along its tracks, the sound echoing through the night like a reminder that life kept moving, whether you were ready or not. Ava sat quietly in the back seat, her soaked wedding dress bundled awkwardly around her legs. The fabric felt heavier now, no longer delicate or beautiful, just wet, just real. Beside her, Ethan remained still, hands resting loosely on his lap. He didn't fill the silence with questions, didn't push, didn't try to explain himself. For some reason, that made her trust him more. The car finally slowed in front of a low, aging building tucked between a laundromat and a closed diner. A single yellow light flickered above the entrance, buzzing faintly. "This is it?" Ava asked softly. Ethan nodded. "For now." The driver stepped out, helping guide the wheelchair down carefully. Ava followed, her shoes slipping slightly on the wet pavement. The rain had softened into a mist, clinging to the air. She looked up at the building again. It wasn't impressive. It wasn't anything like the life she had just lost. But for the first time that night, she didn't feel like she was standing outside something she didn't belong to. Inside, the hallway smelled faintly of detergent and old paint. The floor creaked under their steps. A television hummed somewhere behind a closed door, laughter from a late-night sitcom leaking into the hall. Ethan moved forward with quiet familiarity, stopping in front of a simple door near the end. "This is me," he said. Ava hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." He unlocked the door and pushed it open. The apartment was small. One room opened into another with no real separation. A worn couch sat near the window. A modest kitchen lined the far wall. Everything was clean, but simple, like someone had chosen function over comfort a long time ago. Ava stepped inside slowly. No chandeliers, no polished marble, no pretending, just a space that existed. She exhaled quietly. "You can take the bedroom," Ethan said, already moving toward the couch. "I'll stay out here." Ava blinked. "No, it's fine." He didn't look at her when he said it, just reached for a folded blanket draped over the back of the couch. That stopped her. All night, people had been deciding things for her, speaking over her, taking from her. And now, this man, this stranger, was stepping back instead, giving her space. It felt unfamiliar. "I'm not taking your bed," she said gently. Ethan glanced up. "It's not about taking. It's about comfort." Ava shook her head, a faint, tired smile pulling at her lips. "Then we'll figure it out." There was a brief pause, then Ethan nodded once. "All right." They moved around each other awkwardly at first, like two people trying to share a space that neither fully understood yet. Ava found a towel in the bathroom and wrapped it around her shoulders, peeling off the soaked layers of her dress piece by piece. When she stepped back out, she had changed into an oversized shirt she found folded neatly on a shelf. Ethan didn't comment, didn't stare, just handed her a mug of something warm. "Tea," he said. "It's all I have." Ava took it, her fingers brushing lightly against his. "Thank you." The warmth spread through her, then slowly into her chest. She hadn't realized how cold she had been. They sat in silence for a while. The clock on the wall ticked steadily. Outside, a car passed. Somewhere upstairs, footsteps crossed a creaky floor. Ava stared into her cup. "This is crazy," she said finally. Ethan gave a small, almost amused exhale. "That's one way to describe it. I married a man whose last name I learned 10 minutes before I said yes." "You can still change it," he said. Ava shook her head. "No." She paused, then added more quietly, "I don't think I want to." That surprised even her. Ethan studied her for a moment, then leaned back slightly in his chair. "You don't ask a stranger to marry you unless something broke," he said. Ava let out a slow breath. "It didn't just break," she said. "It disappeared." She looked up at him. "I thought I had a life, a plan, a place where I belonged." Her voice softened. "Turns out I was just borrowing it." Ethan didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix it. He just listened. "And you?" Ava asked after a moment. "You said yes just as fast as I asked. That's not normal." A faint shadow crossed Ethan's face. "No," he agreed. "It's not." "Then why?" He didn't answer right away. His gaze drifted toward the window, where the faint glow of the streetlight filtered through the glass. "Because," he said slowly, "I recognized something." Ava tilted her head slightly. "What?" Ethan looked back at her. "The moment right before everything changes," he said. "When you realize you can either go back or step into something you don't understand yet." Ava felt her breath catch. "And you chose this?" she asked. Ethan gave a small nod. "So did you." The room fell quiet again, but this silence felt different, Not empty, not heavy, just still. Ava shifted slightly, pulling the oversized shirt tighter around herself. You don't ask a lot of questions, she said. I've learned that people tell you more when you don't, Ethan replied. She let out a soft huff of laughter. Either wise or dangerous, usually both. Another quiet moment passed. Then Ava noticed something, a small stack of papers on the table near the couch, neatly arranged, organized. She reached over, picking one up before she could stop herself. It was a document. Numbers, names, company headings. Her eyes scanned quickly, then froze, the name Ethan Cole, and beneath it, something else, a company she recognized, not from her life, from the news. Her heart skipped. Ethan, she said slowly. He looked up. What is this? He didn't answer, didn't move, just watched her, and for the first time since she had met him, Ava felt something shift. Not fear, not doubt, something deeper. Something that told her, this man was not who he seemed. The question wasn't just who he was, it was how much he wasn't telling her. Ava looked back down at the paper, then up at him again. The room felt smaller now, the air heavier. Who are you? She asked. And this time, the silence that followed didn't feel safe anymore. Ava's fingers tightened slightly around the paper as she looked at Ethan, her heart beating faster with every passing second. The faint hum of the old refrigerator behind her suddenly felt too loud, too present, like the room itself was pressing in on her. Who are you? She repeated, softer this time but steadier. Ethan didn't flinch. He didn't reach for the paper. He didn't even try to take it from her. Instead, he let out a slow breath and rested his hands together, as if choosing his next words carefully. I was going to tell you, he said. Ava let out a short, disbelieving laugh. When? He didn't answer that. That was answer enough. She looked back down at the document. The company name wasn't something small. It wasn't local. It wasn't the kind of thing someone casually worked for. It was the kind of name people saw on financial news, scrolling across screens in airports and hospital waiting rooms. The kind of name tied to power, to money, to decisions that affected thousands of people. And right there, printed clean and official, Ethan Cole, her husband. Her stomach tightened. This doesn't match anything, she said, shaking her head. This place, the way you live. I know, you know? Her voice rose slightly. You know, and you still said yes like none of this mattered. Ethan finally leaned forward a little, his expression calm but no longer distant. It mattered, he said quietly. Just not the way you think. Ava stared at him, searching his face for something, anything, that would make this make sense. You're telling me, she said slowly, that you're connected to this, to all of this. She gestured toward this paper. And you're living here? Alone, like this? Ethan held her gaze. Yes, the simplicity of the answer made it harder to believe. Ava felt a flicker of anger rise beneath her confusion. Do you have any idea what tonight was for me? She asked. Do you understand what it feels like to lose everything in 1 hour and then find out the one person who didn't treat me like nothing has been hiding something this big? Ethan didn't interrupt, didn't defend himself. He just listened. That made it worse. I don't need another lie, Ava continued, her voice tightening. I don't need another version of the truth that only shows up when it's convenient. I'm not lying to you, he said. You're not telling me everything either. Another pause, this one heavier, more dangerous. Ethan looked down for a moment, his jaw tightening just slightly, like something inside him had shifted. You're right, he said finally. Ava blinked. She hadn't expected that. I didn't tell you everything, he continued, because I didn't know if I could, or because you didn't trust me, she asked. Ethan looked back up at her. That's part of it, he admitted. The honesty landed harder than any excuse could have. Ava exhaled slowly, turning away for a second, her hand pressing lightly against the edge of the table. Then, "Why say yes?" she asked, her voice quieter now. "Why step into something like this? With someone you don't trust?" Ethan studied her for a long moment. "Because I trusted what I saw," he said. Ava turned back to him. "What does that even mean?" "It means," he said, "that I saw someone lose everything and still choose not to become bitter." The words hit her differently, not defensive, not sharp, just real. "You didn't scream," he continued. "You didn't beg. You didn't try to fight for something that was already gone. You walked out." Ava swallowed. "That's not strength," she said softly. "That's having no other choice." Ethan shook his head slightly. "Most people still choose something else," he said. "Anger, revenge, blame." He paused. "You didn't." Ava looked down at the floor, her chest tightening again. But this time, it wasn't from humiliation. It was from being seen. And that scared her more than anything. "And what about you?" she asked after a moment. "What are you choosing?" Ethan leaned back slightly, his gaze drifting toward the window again. "For a long time," he said, "I chose distance." Ava frowned slightly. "From people, from everything." The room felt quieter now, more still. "I had reasons," he added. "Good ones. Or at least, I thought they were." Ava stepped a little closer, the paper still in her hand. "Are you going to tell me those reasons?" Ethan's eyes met hers again. "Not all at once," he said. "Not tonight." Something in Ava's chest tightened again. But this time it wasn't anger, it was uncertainty. She looked at him carefully. "You're asking me to stay," she said. "I'm asking you not to leave because of something you don't fully understand yet." Ava let out a slow breath. "That sounds a lot like what someone said to me before everything fell apart tonight." Ethan didn't look away. "I'm not him." "No," she said. "You're not." Another silence settled between them. But this one didn't feel sharp. It felt fragile, like something could either break or begin to form. Ava looked down at the ring on Ethan's hand, still slightly loose, still out of place, just like everything else. "You said yes," she murmured. "Even knowing all of this could get complicated." Ethan gave a faint nod. "Complicated doesn't scare me." Ava let out a small, tired laugh. "It should, maybe," he said. "But simple never worked out very well for me." That caught her off guard. For it, she saw something else in his expression. Not confidence, not control, something quieter, something like pain. It flickered for only a second before he masked it again. But she saw it. And once she saw it, she couldn't unsee it. Ava set the paper back down slowly. The tension in the room shifted. Not gone, but different. "I'm not promising anything," she said after a moment. "I'm not asking you to. I don't trust you yet, that's fair." She studied him again. "You're going to have to earn that." Ethan nodded once. "I know." Ava wrapped her arms loosely around herself, the oversized shirt hanging softly against her frame. "Then we start there," she said. Ethan's gaze softened just slightly. "Then we start there." Outside, the mist had stopped. The city felt quieter, like something had settled. But beneath that calm, something else was building, because now Ava knew one thing for certain. The man she had married on a rainy sidewalk was carrying a life far bigger than this small apartment. And whatever he was holding back wasn't small either. As the clock ticked forward into the early hours of the morning, Ava leaned back against the wall, exhaustion finally catching up to her. Ethan reached over and switched off the main light, leaving only the soft glow from a lamp in the corner. The room dimmed. Shadows stretched across the floor, and in that quiet space between strangers turned husband and wife. Neither of them said what they were really thinking, not yet, but they both felt it. This wasn't just a second chance. It was something deeper, something riskier, something neither of them fully understood. And somewhere, far beyond this small apartment, the life Ethan had tried to leave behind was already beginning to move again. Morning came quietly. A pale gray light slipped through the thin curtains, brushing across the worn wooden floor and the edge of the couch where Ethan had fallen asleep. The city outside had softened overnight. The noise was still there. Distant cars, a bus sighing to a stop, someone dragging a trash bin across concrete. But it felt slower now, like the world hadn't fully woken up yet. Ava opened her eyes. For a second, she didn't recognize where she was. The ceiling was unfamiliar. The air smelled faintly of tea and detergent instead of expensive candles and polished marble. Her body felt stiff, heavy, like she had lived a week inside one night. Then it all came back. The wedding, the rain, the ring, Ethan. She sat up slowly, pulling the oversized shirt tighter around her shoulders. The room was quiet, but not empty. She could hear him, soft breathing, steady, controlled. She turned her head. Ethan was still asleep on the couch, one arm resting across his chest, the other hanging loosely at his side. Even in sleep, there was tension in his body. Not obvious, not dramatic, just there, like something inside him never fully let go. Ava watched him for a moment. This man, her husband, a stranger, a question she hadn't answered yet. She slipped her feet onto the floor, careful not to make noise. The apartment felt smaller in the daylight, but also more honest. No shadows hiding things, no illusions, just what it was. Ava moved into the kitchen, opening cabinets slowly, quietly. There wasn't much. A few boxes, some tea, a loaf of bread. Enough to live, not enough to impress. She paused. Then, without thinking too much about it, she started moving. The kettle went on. She found a pan. Cracked 2 eggs she didn't know he had. It wasn't about the food. It was about doing something. Because sitting still felt too close to falling apart. By the time the kettle whistled softly, Ethan stirred. He didn't wake all at once, just shifted slightly, his eyes opening slowly as if adjusting to the light. He blinked once, then again, and for a brief second, there was confusion in his gaze, like he had forgotten where he was. Then he saw her, standing in his kitchen, making breakfast like she had always been there. Something in his expression changed. "You didn't have to do that," he said, his voice still rough from sleep. Ava didn't turn right away, "I know." She flipped the eggs gently, watching the edges curl. Silence settled again, but it wasn't uncomfortable, not yet. Ethan pushed himself up slightly, adjusting his position in the chair. There was a small movement in his jaw, barely noticeable, but Ava caught it. Pain. He masked it quickly, too quickly. Ava turned then, setting the plate down in front of him. "You don't have to hide it," she said. Ethan glanced up. "Hide what?" She crossed her arms lightly. "That." He didn't respond. Didn't deny it either. Ava stepped closer, her voice softer now. "I heard you last night, that landed." Ethan looked away. "It's nothing," he said. Ava shook her head. "It's not nothing if you're trying that hard to make it sound like nothing." Another pause. Longer this time. Ethan exhaled slowly. "It's just something I deal with." Ava studied him. "That's not an answer. It's the only one I'm giving right now." There was no anger in his voice, no defensiveness, just a boundary, and for some reason, Ava respected that. She nodded once, stepping back. "Okay." They ate in silence for a while. The clock ticked. The city woke up. A siren passed in the distance, and slowly, something shifted again, Not tension, not distance. Something quieter. Something building. After a few minutes, Ava stood, rinsing the dishes in the sink. "So what now?" she asked. Ethan looked at her. "That depends." "On what? On what you want this to be?" Ava paused, water running over her hands. "I don't know yet," she admitted. Ethan nodded. "That's honest." She turned the water off, drying her hands slowly. "But I do know one thing," she added. Ethan waited. "I'm not going back," she said. "Not to the hotel, not to Marcus, not to that version of her life." Ethan watched her carefully. "I didn't think you would." Ava met his gaze. "And you?" she asked. "Are you going back?" The question hung in the air, heavy, real. Ethan didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked toward the window again, the light now stronger, clearer. "That depends," he said quietly. "On what?" Ava echoed. Ethan turned back to her. "On whether I have a reason not to." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Ava felt it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, a knock at the door. Sharp, unexpected. Ava froze. Ethan's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. Subtle, controlled, alert. Another knock, this one firmer. Ava looked at him. "Are you expecting someone?" Ethan shook his head slowly. "No." The knock came again, 3 times, deliberate. Whoever was on the other side wasn't leaving. Ava felt her chest tighten. Everything about this moment felt wrong. Too soon, too sudden, too connected. Ethan rolled forward slightly. "Stay here," he said. Ava didn't move. "I'm not hiding in your kitchen," she replied. Ethan looked at her for a second, then nodded. "Then stand beside me." The words were simple, but they meant something. Ava stepped forward, close enough to feel the quiet steadiness in him. Close enough to realize she wasn't alone in this anymore. Ethan reached for the handle, paused, then opened the door. A man stood on the other side, mid-50s, sharp suit, rain still clinging to his coat, like he had been outside longer than he should have been. His eyes moved quickly, taking in the room, Ava, the space, before settling on Ethan. And in that instant, changed, because the man didn't look surprised. He didn't look confused. He looked relieved. "Sir," he said, his voice low but urgent, "we've been trying to reach you." Ava's heart skipped. Ethan didn't respond. The man continued. "They've started moving assets. Meetings have been called. And if you don't step in now—" He stopped, just long enough for the weight of the next words to land. "You're going to lose everything. Silence, thick, heavy, unavoidable." Ava turned slowly to Ethan, the man she had married, the man who lived in this small apartment, the man who had said yes in the rain without hesitation. And now, the man who might be standing at the center of something far bigger than she ever imagined. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "What is he talking about?" Ethan didn't answer her, not yet, but the look in his eyes said everything. The past hadn't just found him. It had arrived, and it wasn't asking for permission anymore. The hallway outside felt colder than it should have. The man in the suit stood still, rainwater dripping slowly from the edge of his coat onto the cracked tile floor. He didn't look at Ava again. His entire attention was locked on Ethan, as if the rest of the world had quietly disappeared. Ava felt it, that shift, like she had just stepped into a room where she wasn't supposed to be. Ethan didn't speak right away. His hand rested lightly on the wheel of his chair, fingers still unmoving. But Ava noticed the tension in his shoulders, the slight tightening in his jaw. Not fear, something else, recognition. "How did you find me?" Ethan finally asked. His voice was calm, too calm. The man lowered his head slightly, almost respectful. "We've been monitoring the situation, sir," he said carefully. "When your accounts went dark, we knew something was wrong." Ava's breath caught. Accounts? Monitoring? Her eyes flicked between them. "Ethan," she whispered. But he didn't look at her. Not yet. The man continued, urgency slipping through his controlled tone. "The board is making moves. They're using your absence to push decisions through, major ones. If you don't step in now, they'll take control permanently." Silence followed, heavy, pressing in from every direction. Ava stepped forward, her voice sharper now. "What is he talking about?" This time Ethan looked at her, and for the first time since she had met him, she didn't recognize the man in front of her. Not completely. There was something else behind his eyes now, something deeper, older. "Go wait inside," he said quietly. Ava didn't move. "No." The word came out stronger than she expected. "I'm not stepping back this time. Not when someone shows up at your door talking about losing everything like you're—" She stopped, searching for the right word. "Like you're someone important." Ethan held her gaze. For a moment it looked like he might argue. Then something in his expression softened. Just a little. "All right," he said. He turned back to the man. "Say what you came to say." The man hesitated for a fraction of a second, then nodded. "They've already started transferring assets into shell companies," he said. "Your uncle's name is on most of the documents. And Marcus Hale." Ava's heart dropped. "Marcus?" she echoed. The name tasted bitter. The man glanced at her, surprised, then back at Ethan. "Yes, ma'am. He's been working closely with them. He's positioning himself as a strategic partner once the takeover is complete." The room went still. Ava felt like the air had been pulled out of her lungs. Marcus, her ex-fiancé, the man who had humiliated her in front of hundreds of people, the man who had thrown her out like she meant nothing. And now, he was somehow connected to whatever this was. Ava turned slowly to Ethan. "What is going on?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her effort to stay steady. Ethan didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked past her, toward the small, dim apartment. The chipped walls, the narrow kitchen, the worn-out couch, the life he had chosen. Or maybe the life he had hidden inside. Then he exhaled. Slow, controlled. "I didn't want you to find out like this," he said. Ava let out a soft, disbelieving laugh. "Find out what, Ethan?" He met her eyes again, and this time there was no hiding. "I'm not who you think I am." The words landed hard. Ava crossed her arms, shaking her head. "No," she said. "You don't get to say that, like it explains anything." Ethan nodded slightly. "You're right." Another pause. Then, "My full name is Ethan Cole." Ava frowned. "I know that," he continued. "Cole Enterprises." The name hung in the air. Familiar. Too familiar. Ava's mind raced. The buildings downtown, the hospitals, the development projects that had reshaped entire neighborhoods. The name was everywhere. And suddenly, everything inside her shifted. "No," she whispered. Ethan didn't look away. "I used to run it," he said quietly. Ava stared at him, at the man in the worn shirt, the man in the wheelchair, the man who had sat under a bus stop in the rain. "You're lying," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "I wish I was, Slance." The man at the door stepped in slightly, closing it behind him as if sealing the moment. "Sir," he said carefully, "the board still believes you're incapacitated, that you won't return." Ethan's lips pressed into a thin line. "That was the point." Ava's head snapped toward him. "The point?" she repeated. Ethan leaned back slightly, his hands resting in his lap now. "After the accident, after everything that happened, I realized something." His voice was steady, but there was pain underneath it. Everyone around me, they weren't there for me. They were there for what I had. Ava swallowed. He continued, My own family tried to push me out before I even left the hospital. They saw an opportunity. A man in a wheelchair. Easier to control. Easier to replace. The room felt smaller, tighter. So you disappeared? Ava asked. I stepped away, Ethan corrected gently. I let them think I was broken, that I was done, and you just left everything behind. Ethan looked at her. Yes. Ava shook her head, stepping back. That doesn't make any sense. It does when you've lost trust in everyone around you. The words were quiet, but they hit hard. Ava felt something twist inside her chest, because she understood that feeling. More than she wanted to admit. But why here, she asked. Why this place? Why me? Ethan's gaze softened again. That part wasn't planned. Ava's brows furrowed. What does that mean? Ethan didn't answer, not directly. Instead, he glanced at the man in the suit. You should go, he said. Sir, I know what's happening, Ethan cut in calmly. And I know what I need to do. The man hesitated, then nodded. We'll hold them off as long as we can. He turned to leave, pausing at the door. Sir, it's good to see you again. Ethan didn't respond. The door closed softly behind him, and suddenly, it was just the two of them again, but nothing felt the same. Ava stood there, arms wrapped around herself, trying to piece everything together. You're telling me, she said slowly, that I married a man who owns half the city, and you just didn't think to mention that? Ethan gave a faint, almost tired smile. I didn't think it mattered. Ava stared at him. Didn't matter, she repeated. To me, he said. It doesn't. Ava shook her head again, overwhelmed. It matters to me, she said, because I need to know who I'm living with. Ethan nodded. That's fair. Another silence, this one heavier than all the others. Ava's voice softened. Why didn't you tell me? Ethan looked down at his hands, then back at her. Because I needed to know something first. Ava's heart tightened. What? Ethan held her gaze. Whether you would have stayed, if I had nothing. The words settled between them, raw, unavoidable. Ava felt her throat tighten, all the moments replayed in her mind, the apartment, the meals, the quiet nights, the pain he tried to hide, and her own choices. I did stay, she said softly. Ethan nodded. I know. Another pause, then Ava took a slow step back, processing, breathing, trying to understand the weight of everything she had just learned. Outside, a car passed. Down the street, a horn sounded. Life continued. But inside that apartment, everything had changed. Ava looked at him one more time. Really looked. And now she saw it. Not the wealth, not the power, but the loneliness behind it. And suddenly, the truth didn't feel like a betrayal anymore. It felt like a test, one she hadn't realized she was taking. But now, she had to decide how to finish it. Ethan, she said quietly. He looked up, but before she could say anything else, her phone buzzed, sharp, unexpected. She pulled it out, her heart skipping, an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello? The voice on the other end was smooth, familiar, too familiar. Well, Marcus said lightly, I was wondering how long it would take before you found out. Ava's grip tightened on the phone. What do you want? Marcus chuckled softly. I just wanted to congratulate you, he said. You married well, Ava. Her stomach dropped, and I'd hate for something unfortunate to happen before you even get to enjoy it. The line went quiet for a beat. Then, tell Ethan, Marcus added, his tone turning colder, that this time, I'm not the one walking away. The call ended. Ava stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear, her heart pounding, and slowly, she lowered it, looking at Ethan, realizing something terrifying. This wasn't over, it was just beginning. The words lingered in the air long after Ava lowered her phone. Her fingers trembled slightly, but she forced them still, pressing the device against her palm as if grounding herself in something solid. The apartment felt different now. Smaller, tighter, like the walls themselves had leaned in to listen. Ethan didn't ask what Marcus had said. He didn't need to. He saw it in her face. "He's involved," Ethan said quietly. It wasn't a question. Ava nodded slowly, her eyes still fixed somewhere distant. "He knows," she whispered. "About you, about everything." Ethan's expression didn't change much, but something dark flickered behind his calm exterior. "Figured I would," he said. Ava looked at him sharply. "You figured?" she repeated, disbelief rising again. "Ethan, this isn't some small thing." He sounded... She stopped, searching for the word. "Confident. Like he's already won." Ethan let out a slow breath. "Marcus has always been confident," he said. "That's what makes him dangerous." Ava felt her chest tighten. "You knew him before me?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "Not personally, but I knew of him. He's been circling the company for years. Smart, patient, ruthless when he needs to be." Ava let out a quiet, bitter laugh. "Yeah," she said. "That sounds like him." Silence settled between them again. But this time it wasn't uncertain. It was heavy with truth. Ava walked slowly to the window, pulling the curtain aside just enough to look out. The street below glistened under the streetlights, rain still falling in thin, steady lines. A couple hurried past, heads down, trying to escape the cold. Normal life, unaware. "I thought I left that world behind," she said softly. "All of it. The lies, the games, the people who only see value in what you have." Her reflection stared back at her in the glass. But now, behind her, Ethan sat in the dim light, and she realized something unsettling. She had never really left that world. She had just stepped into another version of it. "You didn't bring it here," Ethan said from behind her, as if reading her thoughts. "I did." Ava turned. He was watching her carefully, not defensively, not coldly, but like someone waiting for a verdict. "You hid it," she said. "I protected it," he corrected. "From me?" Ethan shook his head slightly. "No, from everyone." Ava crossed her arms, frustration rising again. "You keep saying that like it makes it better." "It doesn't," he admitted. That caught her off guard. Ethan looked down for a moment, his fingers tightening slightly against the armrest of his chair. "It just makes it honest." Ava studied him, really studied him, the man who had sat silently in the shadows of a bus stop. The man who had accepted her desperate, reckless proposal without hesitation. The man who had let her see him at his weakest. And now, the man who had built an empire. "You said something earlier," she said slowly, "about needing to know if I'd stay." Ethan nodded once. Ava took a step closer. "Was that all this was?" she asked. A test, the word hung between them. Sharp, unforgiving. Ethan looked up at her. And for the first time since the truth came out, there was something fragile in his eyes. "No," he said. Ava waited. He continued. "It started that way," he admitted. "But it didn't stay that way." Ava's breath hitched slightly. "What changed?" Ethan didn't hesitate this time. "Time you did." The simplicity of the answer hit harder than anything else he could have said. Ava felt her chest tighten again, but not from anger, from something deeper. "You stayed," Ethan said, "not because you had to, not because you had anything to gain, but because that's who you are." Ava looked away, swallowing the emotion rising in her throat. I stayed because I know what it feels like to be left behind," she said quietly. Ethan didn't respond right away. Then, "I know," he said. The room fell silent again. But this time, it wasn't suffocating. It was understanding. Ava took a slow breath, then turned back to him. "So what now?" she asked. "Because if Marcus is involved, he's not going to stop. He never does." Ethan's expression shifted slightly, not to fear, to focus. "He won't stop," Ethan agreed. "But neither will I." There was something in his voice now, something firm, unshaken. And Ava realized this wasn't the man who had been hiding. This was the man who had built everything. "What does that mean?" she asked. Ethan leaned forward slightly in his chair. "It means I go back," he said. Ava's eyes widened. "To the company? Yes, you can't just walk in like nothing happened," she said. "They think you're gone, that you're out of the picture." Ethan gave a faint, almost knowing smile. "That's exactly why I can." Ava frowned, trying to follow. "They've gotten comfortable," he explained. "They think they've already won. That makes them careless. And Marcus?" she asked. Ethan's eyes darkened slightly. "He'll make a move," he said. "Soon." Ava felt a chill run down her spine. "And when he does," Ethan held her gaze, "I'll be ready." The confidence in his voice should have been reassuring. But something about it, something about the calm before the storm, made Ava uneasy, because she had seen Marcus play this game before, and he didn't lose easily. Ava stepped closer again. "And what about me?" she asked. Ethan hesitated for the first time, a small pause, but Ava caught it. "You stay out of it," he said. The words came too quickly, too firmly. Ava's expression hardened. "No," she said immediately. Ethan blinked. "Ava, no," she repeated, her voice stronger now. "You don't get to decide that for me. This isn't your fight. It became my fight the second he called me," she shot back. "The second he used me to get to you." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I won't let you get hurt." Ava let out a short, humorless laugh. "Ethan, I've already been hurt. That's not new." She stepped even closer now, standing right in front of him. "What's new," she continued, "is that I finally have a choice, and I'm not walking away." Their eyes locked. The tension between them wasn't conflict. It was something else, something stronger. Ethan searched her face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. But there was none. Only resolve. Finally, nodded. Once. "All right," he said quietly. Ava let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "But we do this carefully," Ethan added. "No risks we don't understand." Ava gave a small, determined nod. "Careful," she echoed, "not passive." A faint smile touched Ethan's lips. "Agreed." For a moment, the storm outside seemed to fade. The rain softened, the city noise dulled, and inside that small apartment, something shifted. They weren't just two strangers bound by a desperate decision anymore. They were partners, facing something bigger than both of them. But as Ava turned back toward the window, her gaze drifting to the dark street below, a thought crept in, quiet, unsettling. If Ethan had been hiding all this time, and Marcus had still found him, then how much of this, how much of their life, had truly been invisible? And more importantly, who else was already watching? The question lingered in Ava's mind long after the room fell silent. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the city hadn't. Cars hissed across wet pavement. A distant siren wailed, then faded into the night. Somewhere down the block, laughter echoed from a late-night bar. Life continuing, unaware of the storm quietly building in one small apartment. Ava stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself. She couldn't shake the feeling, the one crawling up her spine, like something unseen had just stepped closer. Behind her, Ethan reached for his phone. His movements were calm, deliberate, but there was urgency beneath them now. The kind of urgency that didn't panic. It calculated. He dialed a number from memory. It rang once, twice, then Leo, Ethan said quietly, a pause. Ava turned slightly, watching him. His voice had changed. Not louder, not harsher, just different, controlled. Precise, status, he said. On the other end, a voice responded quickly. Professional, sharp. They're moving, Leo said. Board members started shifting assets this morning. Quietly. Not all of them, but enough. Ethan's eyes narrowed. And Marcus? Another pause. Meeting with 2 directors tomorrow, Leo replied. Off-site, private. Ava's stomach tightened. They're consolidating, Ethan said. Trying to secure control before I reappear. Exactly, Leo confirmed. And there's something else. Ethan didn't speak. He waited. They've been asking about her, Leo added. Ava's breath caught. Ethan's grip on the phone tightened just slightly. Define asking, he said. Background checks, financial history, employment, family connections, Leo said. They're building a profile. Ava stepped closer instinctively. Why? She whispered. Ethan didn't answer her. Not yet. How far did they get? He asked into the phone. Surface level so far, Leo said. But if they keep digging, they won't find anything useful, Ethan cut in. Leo hesitated. They don't need facts, he said carefully. They just need a narrative. Ava felt that hit because she knew exactly what that meant. They didn't need the truth. They just needed a story people would believe. A poor black woman, a sudden marriage, a hidden billionaire. It didn't take much to twist that into something ugly. Ethan exhaled slowly. Prepare the call, he said. Tomorrow morning. All of them? Leo asked. All of them. A beat. They won't expect it, Leo said. That's the point, Ethan replied. He ended the call. The room felt heavier now, charged. Ava crossed her arms again, her voice quieter this time. They're going to come after me, she said. Ethan looked at her. Yes, he said simply. No sugarcoating, no false comfort, just truth. Ava nodded slowly. Okay? Ethan frowned slightly. Okay? He repeated. Ava gave a small, almost tired smile. I've been underestimated my whole life, she said. This isn't new. She turned back to the window, her reflection staring back at her again. But this time, she added softly, I'm not alone. Ethan watched her for a moment. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, not the kind given out of politeness, the kind earned. We'll get ahead of it, he said, before they turn this into something else. Ava nodded. How? Ethan didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached for his laptop on the small table beside him. The device looked out of place in the apartment. Sleek, expensive, almost foreign against the worn wood and peeling paint. He opened it, typed in a password, then another. Ava stepped closer, watching as the screen came to life, a clean interface, minimal but powerful. Within seconds, a series of live feeds appeared. Conference rooms, office floors, parking garages. Ava's eyes widened. Is that my company? Ethan said. Her gaze flickered across the screens. Men in suits, women reviewing documents, executives walking briskly through glass hallways. A world she had never belonged to. A world that had rejected her before she even had a chance to step inside. And now, it was sitting in front of her. Real, immediate. Ethan, she breathed. He didn't look at her. His focus was already locked onto one of the feeds. A conference room. 3 men, one of them, Marcus. Ava's heart dropped. He's early, Ethan murmured. Marcus leaned back in his chair, smiling like he already owned the room. Like he already owned everything. Ava felt anger rise in her chest. That's him, she said. Ethan nodded once. I know, on the screen. Marcus said something. The others laughed, confident, relaxed. They had no idea. Ethan's fingers moved across the keyboard. Another screen opened, then another. Files, documents, financial reports. Ava couldn't keep up. "What are you doing?" she asked. Ethan's voice was calm, reminding them who they're dealing with. He hit a key on the conference room feed. Marcus's phone buzzed, then the man beside him, then the other. One by one, they all reached for their devices. Confusion flickered across their faces. Ava leaned closer. "What did you send them?" Ethan didn't look away from the screen. "Truth," he said. On the feed, Marcus's smile faded. His posture shifted, subtle but unmistakable. Something had changed. "What kind of truth?" Ava pressed. Ethan finally glanced at her, the kind they can't ignore. Back on the screen, Marcus stood abruptly. The room's energy had flipped, tension replacing ease. The men started talking over each other, phones ringing, papers being pulled out. It was chaos, controlled chaos, and Ethan was the one controlling it. Ava felt a strange mix of emotions rise inside her: shock, relief, and something else. Something deeper. Understanding. This was the man who had built everything, not just with money, but with strategy, with patience, with precision. "They thought I disappeared," Ethan said quietly. "They forgot I was still watching." Ava looked at him. Really looked. "You've been doing this the whole time?" she asked. "Not like this," he said. Ava frowned. "What changed?" Ethan held her gaze. "You did." The answer came without hesitation. Again, and this time Ava believed him. On the screen, Marcus slammed his hand against the table. Anger. Real this time. No mask, no control. Ava felt a small, unexpected sense of satisfaction, but it didn't last, because something else followed. Marcus looked up, not at the men in the room, not at his phone, but straight at the camera. Ava's breath caught. It felt impossible, like he could see them, like he knew. "Can he?" she started. "No," Ethan said quickly. "He can't see us." But his voice was quieter now, less certain. Marcus's expression shifted, slowly, a smile. Cold, knowing. Ava felt that same chill crawl up her spine again. "Then why does it feel like he does?" she whispered. Ethan didn't answer. Because for the first time since this started, he wasn't entirely sure. And in that moment, Ava realized something terrifying. This wasn't just a battle of power, or money, or control. This was a game, and Marcus wasn't just reacting anymore. He was playing back. The screen flickered slightly. Then, Marcus picked up his phone again, looked down, typed something. Ava's phone buzzed instantly. Her breath stopped. Slowly, she looked down at the screen. One message, unknown number, 3 words, "I see you." Ava's hands went cold, and when she looked back up, Marcus was still smiling, right at the camera, like the distance between them didn't exist at all. Ava couldn't breathe. Her phone felt heavier in her hand, like it had suddenly become something alive, something watching her back. "I see you." 3 words, simple, but they shattered whatever illusion of safety she had left. Her eyes slowly lifted from the screen to the laptop. Marcus was still there, still smiling, still looking directly into the camera, like he could reach through the screen and touch them. Ethan's fingers froze above the keyboard. For the first time, there was a crack in his composure. "How?" Ava whispered. Ethan didn't answer immediately. His mind was already racing, dissecting every possible breach, every vulnerability, every blind spot. "It's not the camera," he said finally. "He can't access that feed. Then how does he know?" Ava pressed, her voice trembling now. Ethan turned his laptop slightly, closing one of the windows, "Because someone told him," he said. The words landed hard. Ava felt her chest tighten. "Someone inside?" she asked. Ethan nodded once. "Or someone close enough to watch," he said. Ava's thoughts immediately went back, everywhere. The apartment, the neighbors, the shelter, the streets. Had she been followed? Watched? Her pulse quickened. Ethan, she said, her voice lower now. What if it's not just about the company? He looked at her. What do you mean? Ava swallowed. If it's me, silence, heavy, uncomfortable. Ethan studied her carefully. They were building a profile, she continued. You heard Leo. They're digging into my life, my past, my family. Her voice cracked slightly. What if Marcus isn't just trying to get to you? What if he's trying to break me first? Ethan's jaw tightened. He didn't like that possibility. Not at all. Then he's underestimating you, he said. Ava gave a weak, humorless smile. People usually do, she replied. Her phone buzzed again. Both of them flinched. Ava hesitated this time. She didn't want to look, but she had to. Slowly, she unlocked the screen. Another message, this one longer. You should have stayed where you belonged. This city isn't kind to people like you. Ava felt something shift inside her. Not fear. Not this time. Something else. Familiar. Old. The kind of feeling she had carried since she was a child. Being told where she belonged. Being reminded she didn't fit. Being pushed back into a place someone else decided for her. Her grip on the phone tightened. Yeah, she said quietly. I've heard that one before. Ethan watched her carefully, waiting. Ava looked up, and for the first time since the messages started, her fear wasn't leading, her anger was. He's not just playing with you, she said. He's trying to put me back in a box. Ethan nodded slowly. That's how people like him win, he said. They make you doubt your place. Ava shook her head. No, she said firmly. That's how people like him think they win. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. A shift. Ava stepped forward, closer to the laptop, closer to the screen. Marcus was gone now. The room on the feed was empty, but the damage, the message, still lingered. He wants me scared, she said. Quiet, invisible again. Ethan didn't interrupt. Not this time, Ava added. The words came stronger now, more certain. Ethan leaned back slightly, watching her, seeing something change, not break, not retreat, but rise. What are you thinking? He asked. Ava looked at him. Direct, clear. We stop reacting, she said. We make him react to us. Ethan's lips curved slightly. Just barely. That's a dangerous approach, he said. Ava nodded. So is hiding. That landed. Ethan exhaled slowly. She wasn't wrong. What do you suggest? He asked. Ava glanced back at her phone, then at the laptop, then back at Ethan. You said they're building a narrative, she said. About me. About us. Ethan nodded. Then we give them one, she continued. Ethan frowned slightly. One we control. A pause. Then, understanding. You want to go public, he said. Ava held his gaze. Yes. Ethan didn't respond immediately. He thought about it. Every angle, every consequence. Public meant exposure. Exposure meant risk, but it also meant control, and Marcus hated losing control. It would force his hand, Ethan said slowly. Ava nodded. He's already moving, she replied. We just don't see all of it yet. Ethan leaned forward slightly. And you're ready for that? He asked. Ava didn't hesitate. I've been ready my whole life, she said. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was electric. Ethan reached for his phone again, dialed. Leo answered immediately. Yes, sir. We're accelerating, Ethan said. Prepare a statement. Press release. Full exposure. Leo paused. That's a big move, he said carefully. I know, Ethan replied. Timing? Leo asked. Ethan looked at Ava. She met his eyes. Steady. Tomorrow morning, Ethan said. Ava let out a slow breath. No turning back now. Leo exhaled softly on the other end. Understood, he said. I'll coordinate everything. Ethan ended the call. The room fell quiet again, but everything felt different now. Sharper, clearer. Ava stepped back slightly, running a hand through her hair. You really think this will work? She asked. Ethan looked at her, not as a CEO, not as a strategist, but as a man who had spent years calculating every move. No, he said honestly. Ava blinked. No? He shook his head slightly. I think it will start something, he corrected. Ava let out a small breath. That doesn't sound very reassuring. Ethan's expression softened just a little. It's not supposed to be, he said. It's real. Ava nodded slowly. She could respect that. Honesty, even when it wasn't comforting. Her phone buzzed again. Ava didn't flinch this time. She looked at it. Another message. You think stepping into the light will save you? Ava stared at the words for a moment. Then, she typed back, her fingers steady now. No, she whispered as she hit send. But it will expose you. She locked the phone, set it down. Ethan watched her. Something close to admiration flickered in his eyes. You just made it personal, he said. Ava looked at him. It already was. Outside, the city hummed louder. Morning wasn't far off, and with it, a new chapter, not just for them, but for everyone watching. Because this time, they weren't hiding. They were stepping into the light. And somewhere, in another part of that city, Marcus's phone buzzed. He looked down at the reply. Read it once, then again. His smile returned. But this time, it wasn't calm. It wasn't controlled. It was something sharper, something darker. Because for the first time, he wasn't the only one playing the game anymore, and he liked that. Even if it meant the next move could change everything. Morning came faster than either of them expected. The sky over Chicago was still gray, the kind of early light that felt cold even through glass. The city hadn't fully woken up yet, but the tension in the apartment had already settled in like it had been there for years. Ava hadn't slept. She sat at the small kitchen table, a mug of coffee untouched in front of her. Steam had long faded, leaving only the faint bitterness of something that had gone cold too soon. Across the room, Ethan was already working, laptop open, phone beside him. 3 screens now instead of 1. The quiet man from the bus stop was gone. This version of Ethan moved differently, faster, sharper, like he had stepped back into a role he had never truly left. Ava watched him for a moment. There was no hesitation anymore, no hiding, just precision. You've done this before, she said softly. Ethan didn't look up. Yes, the simplicity of the answer made her chest tighten. How many times? She asked. He paused. Just for a second. Enough to know how it ends, he said. Ava leaned back slightly in her chair. And how does it end? This time Ethan looked at her. That depends on who makes the last move. Ava held his gaze, then nodded once. Then let's make sure it's us. Ethan's phone buzzed. He picked it up immediately. Leo, they're already reacting, Leo said. Press picked up the leak. It's spreading fast. Ethan's eyes flickered to Ava. Good, he said. Ava frowned. Good? She repeated. Ethan stood slowly, adjusting himself in the chair, his posture straighter now. They're being forced into the open, he said. No more shadows. Ava wasn't fully convinced. Or we just gave them a bigger stage, she said. Ethan considered that. You're not wrong, he admitted. The TV in the corner flickered to life. A news anchor's voice filled the room. Developing story this morning involving the elusive chairman of coal industries. Ava turned toward the screen. Her name followed seconds later, and his recent marriage to Ava Brooks, a woman whose sudden rise has raised questions. Ava's stomach dropped. There it was, the narrative, just like Leo said. Questions, doubt, suspicion. Ava exhaled slowly. They didn't waste any time, she murmured. Ethan's jaw tightened. No, he said. They didn't. On the screen, images flashed. The hotel, the wedding, clips from people's phones. Ava standing in the rain, kneeling, holding out the ring. The laughter, the humiliation. Now, replayed, analyzed, twisted. Critics are calling it a calculated move, raising concerns about influence. Questions remain about her background. Ava muted the TV. Silence returned. But it wasn't the same silence. This one had teeth. Ava stood up slowly. They're tearing it apart, she said. Ethan watched her carefully. Yes. Ava walked toward the window again, her reflection staring back at her. They don't know me, she said quietly. Ethan didn't respond. They don't know anything about me, she added. Her voice wasn't breaking, it was steady, but beneath it, something hurt. Deep. Ethan moved closer. Not too close, just enough. They don't need to know you, he said. They just need something that sounds believable. Ava let out a small breath. Poor girl marries rich man, she said. That story writes itself. Ethan didn't argue, because she was right. Ava turned to face him. So what's the next move? She asked. Ethan hesitated. And that hesitation, it was new, Ava noticed. What? She pressed. Ethan looked at her. Really looked. There's something I haven't told you, he said. Ava's chest tightened. Not again. But she didn't interrupt. She waited. Ethan exhaled slowly. 6 years ago, he began. There was an accident. Ava frowned slightly. On a bridge, he continued. Late at night, a car fire. Most people walked away. His voice had changed again, softer, further away. I didn't. Ava's heart started to beat faster. I was trapped, Ethan said. Couldn't move. Couldn't get out. Ava took a step closer, and then, she asked. Ethan's eyes met hers, and then someone came back for me. The room felt like it stopped. Ava's breath caught. What do you mean came back? She asked. Ethan's gaze didn't waver. Everyone else ran, he said, except one person. Ava felt something shift, deep inside her memory, something she hadn't thought about in years, a flicker, a shadow, fire, noise, screaming. Ethan's voice pulled her back. She shouldn't have gone back, he said. It wasn't safe. It didn't make sense. Ava's hand slowly lifted to her chest. Ethan, she whispered. She dragged me out, he continued. Fought through everything just to get me clear. Ava's breathing grew shallow, her mind racing, because she knew. Before he said it, before he confirmed it, she knew. Ethan leaned forward slightly, and then she disappeared. Ava's eyes filled. No, no, she whispered. Ethan reached for something on the table, a small object, carefully preserved. He placed it in her hand. Ava looked down, her fingers trembled. A faded red ribbon burned at the edges. Her breath stopped completely. I've been looking for her ever since, Ethan said quietly. Ava's vision blurred. The bridge, the fire, the weight, the fear, the moment she ran back, even when everyone else didn't. You, she whispered. Her voice broke. You were. Ethan nodded once. Yes. Ava staggered back slightly, overwhelmed. No, she said again, shaking her head. That doesn't make sense. I never. You didn't know who I was, Ethan said gently. Ava looked at him, tears now slipping freely. I didn't know you, she said. I know, he replied. Silence, heavy, but not painful. Not this time. Something else, something bigger. Ava laughed softly through her tears. I thought I just helped someone, she said. Ethan's expression softened. You did. Ava looked down at the ribbon again, then back at him. So this whole time, she said slowly, you knew. Ethan shook his head. Not at first, he said. It took years to find anything, a name, a place. You were already gone by then. Ava wiped her face, trying to steady herself. And when you found me? Ethan hesitated. Then, I was too late, he said. You were engaged. Ava closed her eyes briefly. Of course, Ethan exhaled slowly. So I stayed back, he continued. Watched. Made sure you were okay. Ava's eyes snapped open. You were there? She asked. Ethan nodded. Closer than you think. The memory of the hotel flickered in her mind, the stairs, the moment she hesitated, the feeling that someone had been there, watching. Ava looked at him, stunned. You saw everything, she said. Ethan didn't deny it. Ava let out a breath. And the bus stop? She asked. Ethan's lips curved faintly. That part wasn't planned. Ava stared at him. Then, a small, incredulous laugh escaped her. You're telling me I accidentally proposed to the man I saved years ago, who just happens to be a billionaire? Ethan's expression softened. When you say it like that, he said quietly. Ava shook her head, overwhelmed. This is insane, she murmured. Ethan nodded slightly. Yes, he agreed. Ava looked at him again, really looked, and suddenly, everything made sense. His eyes that first night, the way he looked at her, like he already knew her, like she mattered, not because of what she had, but because of something deeper, something real. Ava took a slow breath. So who saved who? She asked softly. Ethan didn't hesitate. You saved me first, he said. Ava shook her head gently. And you saved me after, she replied. Their eyes held, and for the first time since this started, there was no fear, no doubt, just truth. But outside, the world was still watching, still judging, still waiting for them to fall. Ava glanced at the TV again, muted, but still flashing headlines, still spinning stories. She looked back at Ethan. We can't let them control this, she said. Ethan nodded. We won't. Ava took another breath. Steadier now, stronger. Then let's finish it, she said. Ethan's gaze sharpened. Yes, he said quietly. Let's, because now, this wasn't just about power or money or reputation. It was about something far more dangerous, the truth. And once it came out, there would be no going back. The press conference was set for noon. By 11:30, the building was already surrounded. Black SUVs lined the curb outside Coal Industries' headquarters, their polished surfaces reflecting the restless movement of cameras, reporters, and flashing lights. Microphones were raised like weapons. Questions were already being shouted, before anyone had even stepped out of a car. Inside, everything was quieter. Too quiet. Ava stood near the glass wall overlooking the lobby, her reflection faint against the city skyline behind her. She wore a simple navy dress, nothing extravagant, nothing that screamed wealth, just clean, steady, grounded, the same woman from the shelter, the same woman from the rain. But something had changed. She wasn't standing outside anymore. She was inside. Ethan rolled up beside her, dressed in a dark suit that fit him like it had been waiting for him all along. There was no disguise now, no shadows, no distance, just truth. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. Ava didn't turn. Yes, I do. Her voice was calm, not forced, not shaken. Ethan studied her for a moment. They're not just going to ask questions, he warned. They'll push, twist things, try to make you break. Ava finally looked at him. I didn't break when they threw me out in front of hundreds of people, she said. I'm not breaking now. Ethan held her gaze, then nodded. All right? A knock came at the door. Leo stepped in, holding a tablet. They're ready, he said. Ava exhaled slowly. This was it. Ethan moved forward, but Ava stopped him. Wait, she said. He turned. She stepped closer. For a brief, everything else faded. The noise, the pressure, the world outside that was waiting to tear them apart. I chose you when I thought you had nothing, she said softly. Ethan's expression shifted. And I'm choosing you now, she added, when everyone knows you have everything. Ethan didn't speak. He didn't need to. He just reached for her hand, held it. Firm, real. Let's go, Ava said, and together they stepped into the light. The room exploded with sound. Questions flew immediately. Is this marriage real or strategic? Did you know he was a billionaire? Were you paid to marry him? Is this about control of the company? Ava didn't flinch. She walked forward slowly, each step steady, deliberate. Ethan stayed beside her. Not ahead, not behind, beside. Leo stepped back, letting the room settle just enough for a microphone to be placed in front of them. Ava looked out at the crowd, cameras, lights, faces waiting to judge, and for a moment, she saw it again. The hotel, the laughter, the humiliation, the rain. But this time, she didn't shrink. She stepped closer. I didn't marry a billionaire, she said. The room went still. I married a man sitting alone in the rain, she continued. A man nobody looked at twice. A man people assumed had nothing to offer. A few reporters shifted. Some exchanged looks. Ava didn't stop. I didn't know his name, she said. I didn't know his past. I didn't know his money. Her voice remained steady, but I knew how he looked at me. Ethan's hand tightened slightly around hers. Ava continued. Not like I was something to own, she said. Not like I was something to use. Just like I mattered. Silence, heavy, listening. I've spent my life being told where I belong, she said. What I'm worth. What I should accept. Her eyes moved across the room. And I'm done with that, a camera flashed, then another. I didn't marry money, she said again. I married a person, a beat. And if that makes people uncomfortable, she added, maybe they should ask themselves why. The room didn't erupt this time. It held, absorbing, processing. Ava stepped back slightly. Ethan moved forward. Now it was his turn. I've spent years hiding, he said. Not because I was ashamed of what I built, but because I was tired of what people saw when they looked at me. His voice carried, clear, controlled. They didn't see me, he said. They saw what I had. He glanced at Ava. And then she showed up, he added, a faint smile, not for the cameras, for her. She didn't ask what I owned, he said. She didn't ask what I could give her. A pause. She asked me to stay. The room shifted again. Emotion. Unexpected. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan said, I wanted to. Ava felt her throat tighten. Ethan turned back to the crowd. This isn't a strategy, he said. It's not a deal. It's not a move. He held the silence. It's real. A reporter raised a hand. What about the allegations, they asked. The claims that this was planned to secure power. Ethan's expression didn't change. They're false, he said. Another voice. Marcus Hale has evidence suggesting otherwise. Ava felt it. The shift. The tension tightening again. Ethan didn't react outwardly, but his eyes, they sharpened. Then Marcus should bring that evidence forward, he said calmly. The room buzzed slightly, because everyone knew what that meant. A challenge. Direct. Public. Ava squeezed his hand, and in that moment, she understood. This wasn't just about defending themselves anymore. This was about drawing the line, forcing everything into the open, where it couldn't hide. But somewhere, in the back of the room, a man stood quietly, watching. Not asking questions, not holding a microphone, just watching. Ava's eyes caught him for a split second. Something about him, familiar, unsettling. Then he turned and walked out. Ava's breath caught. Ethan, she whispered. But when she looked again, he was gone, and she realized this wasn't finished, not even close. because the truth had been spoken, the world had heard it. But someone out there was already preparing the next move, and this time, it wasn't going to stay in the light. The city changed after the press conference, not all at once, not loudly, but subtly, like something shifting beneath the surface. Headlines spread, clips replayed, debates filled every screen. Some people believed them, some didn't, but everyone was watching. And that was exactly what made it dangerous. Because when everything is visible, the real threats move where no one is looking. That night, Ava couldn't shake the feeling, the man in the back of the room, the way he had watched, the way he had left. It didn't feel random, it felt intentional. She stood by the apartment window again, looking down at the street below. Snow had begun to fall, soft, steady, covering the city in a quiet blanket that made everything seem calm. But Ava knew better. Behind her, Ethan was on another call, short, precise, track everything, he said. No assumptions. He ended it quickly. Ava turned. You felt it too, she said. Ethan didn't pretend not to understand. Yes, a lance. Then, we missed something, Ava added. Ethan nodded slowly. Or someone. A knock came at the door. Both of them froze. It was too late for visitors. Too early for comfort. Ethan motioned for her to stay back. Leo stepped forward, checking the screen beside the door. His expression changed instantly. What? Ethan asked. Leo hesitated. It's Marcus. The room went still. Ava's heart started pounding. He's here? She whispered. Leo nodded, alone. Ethan considered it. Then, let him in. Ava stepped closer. Ethan, it's time, he said quietly. Leo opened the door. Marcus Hale walked in like he owned the space. No hesitation, no apology. His coat still dusted with snow, his expression calm, but his eyes sharper than ever. Well, Marcus said, glancing around. This is different from what I expected. His gaze landed on Ava, lingering, assessing, then shifted to Ethan. You've been busy, he added. Ethan didn't move. Say what you came to say, Marcus smiled faintly, straight to it. I like that. He stepped further inside, slow, controlled. You've stirred things up, Marcus continued. Press, board, investors, a beat. But you already knew that. Ethan's expression didn't change. What do you want? Marcus's smile faded slightly. I want to finish what I started, he said. Ava felt the air shift again, cold, heavy. Marcus looked at her again. You should have stayed out of this, he said. Ava didn't back down. I was never out of it, she replied. Something flickered in his eyes. Respect, maybe, or something darker. You think this ends with a press conference? Marcus said. With a speech? He shook his head slightly. This doesn't end in the light. Ava stepped forward. Then where does it end? Marcus's gaze held hers. In the truth, he said. Ethan's voice cut in. Then say it. Marcus turned back to him, a long pause. Then, I didn't start this, Marcus said. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Yes, you did. Marcus shook his head. No, he said. I just stepped into it. Silence, then. He reached into his coat. Leo tensed immediately, but Marcus didn't pull out anything threatening, just a folder. He placed it on the table, carefully, deliberately. Open it, he said. Ethan didn't move. Ava did. She stepped forward, her hands steady despite everything. She opened the folder. Inside, documents, photo records. Her breath caught. What is this? She whispered. Marcus's voice was quieter now. Your past, he said. Ava's heart started racing. No, she said under her breath. Marcus watched her. 6 years ago, he continued, that accident on the bridge wasn't random. Ethan's entire body went still. What are you saying? He asked. Marcus met his gaze. You were supposed to be in that car, he said. Ava looked up sharply. What? Marcus didn't look away. The brakes didn't fail, he said. They were tampered with. Silence slammed into the room. Ethan's voice dropped. By who? Marcus hesitated. Just for a moment, then, someone inside your own company. Ava felt like the ground shifted beneath her. That's not possible, Ethan said. Marcus gave a faint, bitter smile. That's what I thought too, he said. Ethan's eyes locked onto his. You're lying. Marcus shook his head. No, he said. I just found out before you did. Ava looked between them, her heart pounding. Why bring this now, she asked. Marcus turned to her. Because the person who started this, he said, is still out there, a beat. And now they know you're both in the open. The room went silent again. But this time, it wasn't fear, it was something else. Something deeper, realization. Ethan leaned back slowly, thinking, calculating. Everything had just shifted. Again. Ava looked at the documents in her hands, then at Ethan, then at Marcus. This isn't over, she said. Marcus nodded once. No, he agreed, it never was. Ava took a slow breath, then she closed the folder. We finish it, she said. Ethan looked at her, not questioning, not doubting, just understanding. Marcus studied them both, then gave a small, almost approving nod. Then you better be ready, he said. Ava held his gaze. We are. Marcus turned, walked toward the door, paused. Without looking back, he said, sometimes the biggest enemy isn't the one you see coming. Then he left. The door closed behind him. Silence, heavy, final. Ava looked at Ethan. What now? Ethan exhaled slowly. We find the truth, he said. Ava nodded. Together. Always. Outside, the snow continued to fall, quiet, peaceful, but beneath it, everything had changed. Because the story everyone thought they understood was only the beginning. And now, the real truth was coming. Not for revenge, not for power, but for something far more important. Justice, and finally, peace. When Ava closed that folder and chose to stand beside Ethan anyway, that was the moment everything truly changed. Sometimes, the truth doesn't come with comfort. It comes with risk. But what matters is who you choose to stand with when everything becomes uncertain. Today, think about one moment in your life where you chose safety over truth. What if, just like Ava, you chose to face it instead? One honest step forward. If this story touched you, comment 1 below, or tell me, have you ever stood by someone when the truth got hard? And if you think this was the end, wait until you see what happens when the past refuses to stay buried.